Number 2 is, of course, Toronto. These guys. So the Toronto Maple Leafs and their desire to win a Stanley Cup has to be pretty strong. Doesn't help they're in the Atlantic, where you've got Boston, who are in the Stanley Cup Finals, Tampa, who are looking to get to that level and win a Stanley Cup, and you've got Montreal, who's rebuilding themselves into a pretty good team. You've got Florida, who fixed their biggest flaw, which was goaltending. It is a tough division at the top. And then you get into Detroit and Ottawa likely being bottom feeders. And then Buffalo, who are a wild card in many forms. Toronto has to be careful this year not to get clawed back. Now, last year they had 100 points. They're out in round 1. The year before, 105 points, out in round 1. The year before that, 95 points, out in round 1. I will defend the Leafs on this. They fail in the first round each year, but they didn't have home ice in any of those years. The best way to fix this would be to have home ice. Now, home ice wasn't necessarily kind to them all season last year. There were times where they really struggled at home, and they were a much better team on the road, which is not that unusual with teams that are under a lot of pressure. It can be easier to play and just play your game away from home. At home, you might be trying a little harder, holding your stick a little tighter, and trying to make the perfect shot rather than just taking the shot. So anyways, prior to that 95-point season, of course, they had 69 points, missed the playoffs. Prior to that, 68 points, missed the playoffs. But that's all forgotten. Now they're known as a team that can't get out of the first round. Last year's preview, I said that they would win a round. They didn't. And honestly, by the time the playoffs rolled around and they were against Boston, I kind of knew Boston was going to beat them. Whereas the year before, I thought they were going to beat Boston. That matchup has been closer than people give it credit for, but because Game 7 has gone to Boston 2 years in a row, that's what matters. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the Leafs. It's not fair to the players in that locker room, but that's how hockey history works. You lose those Game 7s, that's what people remember. Not how the rest of the series played out, not that you were in control of the series at points, not that you looked like the much better team certain nights, just, well, who won Game 7? That's all that matters. Now, they had 286 goals last year, which was 4th in the National Hockey League, but 251 goals against, which was 18th. Now, whether you put this on the goaltending or you put this on the defense, it's still a number they need to fix. And they seem to be trying to do that. They traded away Sparks. And so now they're going to be looking at fixing things. Come on, here we go. By having Hutchinson and Neuwirth fight it out for the backup spot. That appears to be what's going to happen. I have some concerns there, but we'll come back to that when we get to the goaltending portion of this video. In October, they were 8-4. By the end of November, they were 18-8. And Leaf fans felt pretty confident. And they had every right to feel pretty confident. It looked like Toronto and Tampa were going to be the best teams in the league. By the end of December, they're 26-11-2. Fantastic run. Absolutely fantastic run. 15 games above 500. And they were only 3 games above 500 from then on. They had their struggles. By the end of January, they were 30-17-2. End of February, 39-21-4. End of March, 45-26-7. At the end of the season in April, 46-28-8. They had their struggles. So what Kyle Dubas has done, and he's had his detractors, and I've certainly been one who's questioned some of the moves that have been made. He is trying to resolve issues by adding depth and reforming the blue line on the run. And we'll see whether or not the long-term setbacks they're going to have when it comes to prospects and draft picks, whether or not they're worth it by do they win the Stanley Cup. Not only that, but Patrick Marleau being off this team, you lose leadership there. And while fans say, well, he was eating up so much cap, agreed. That's why I didn't agree with signing him to that contract when he signed it. But he did help Matthews and Marner along. And now it's up to Tavares and other veterans to do the same thing. And that kind of chemistry off the ice, impossible to recreate. Can't sit down with a guy and go, okay, we're going to sign you as a free agent. Listen, can you get along with Matthews? I don't know. I don't know. And so that chemistry in the locker room, that chemistry off the ice is very difficult to recreate. And then you get into the whole fact that Nazem Kadri's been taken out, and that's taken out a big physical presence. I know. People want to point out, well, he got suspended in the games that mattered, so it doesn't matter. They got to get rid of him. It's not going to happen every year. It's not. I know it feels like it is, but it's not going to happen every year. It wouldn't have happened again. The odds of it happening again are very, very, very slim. It's just a Boston thing. He doesn't like Boston. So, this is a team that's going to start the season very different than the one that ended the past season. And the big question the media is going to ask between now and October, are they better? And we'll find out in 55 days. So, picking an MVP, I could have picked Marner. But I thought, you know what? While Marner's been their best player the last couple of years, and I still say that, Marner's been their best player, Austin Matthews is going to be the most valuable player to this team. He has to be healthy. He has to prove that he can do it over that full season. And he has to, and again, they've been talking about his ice time and how much is he going to play. Yeah, Babcock has to have faith in him. 100% has to. We talk about how Zach Hyman played on one leg and Austin Matthews was stuck to the bench. Mike Babcock will defend that move. Matthews has to prove that move was a mistake right out of the gate. And so this is a big, big year for him. And he's paid like a superstar. Marner's going to get paid like a superstar as well. I don't anticipate his holdout going into the season, but I'm an optimist, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, goals, I expect John Tavares to lead this team in goals. I wouldn't be surprised to see him hit 50. Not at all. Because I think Marner's playmaking is going to continue to get better. Marner hit, 69 assists this year? 68 assists? Marner can hit 80 assists. Sure, why not? Dark horse, I went with Kenny Agostino because he had a really good run down the stretch with the New Jersey Devils. He is not more than a fourth-line guy. He is not a guy who's going to be pushing into top minutes. I'm not trying to say anything crazy. I'm just saying he could force his way into a regular role with this team. With what about? I went with Timothy Liljegren, and I know there's going to be Leaf fans going, well, we expect him to be in the lineup and push for a lineup spot. But what if he makes it more uncomfortable than that? What if he outplays Tyson Barrie? What if he pushes his way into fourth line or top 4 minutes right away? Right? And then with trade bait, I legit couldn't come up with anybody. They've traded anybody that I think they were going to trade. I don't think anybody else gets traded. I think this now is Kyle Dubas' team, which is why Kyle Dubas' job starts to become an issue if this team fails. If this team goes out in the first round again, questions are going to get asked of Kyle Dubas. This team is made basically almost entirely of players that he's either brought in or shepherded along. And so it's his team now. With the lines, I decided to allow Zach Hyman into the lineup even though he is still out with injury and won't start the season with the team, but that's where he's going to end up. Likely with Matthews and Nylander. We'll see how Nylander does, whether or not he has a bounce-back year. Yes, Leaf fans say he's going to have a bounce-back year. Absolutely could. We're waiting to see if it happens. Andreas Janssen, John Tavares, Mitch Marner. Pretty solid top 6 right there. That's why I put Hyman in there, because Ilya Mikheyev is coming over. He's expected to play big. He is being hyped up a lot by Toronto media, as this guy's going to be awesome. But again, and I've mentioned this before, when a veteran or an older, or even a guy who's 22, 23, when a player comes over from the KHL, comes over from Europe, comes over from that big ice, we don't really know what we're going to get. So That's why I get nervous about penciling a guy into a top role who we have no idea whether he's going to be the next Panarin or the next name almost anybody who's come over from Europe other than Panarin. You're going to see a lot of guys who struggle. Vegas, Shipachev came in. He was going to be their number one center, and lasts, 3-4 games? I'm not saying that happens here. I'm saying that we don't know until they play in North America what to expect. And I think the biggest thing with that was that Shipachev expected he would have some kind of trade value, and he didn't. Nobody wanted him. So Mikheyev's coming in, and with Hyman out with injury, he has a chance to play potentially on the top line. Alexander Kerfoot penciled into that number 3 center spot, which was Kadri's. He will not play Kadri's game, but he's a useful forward. Kasperi Kapanen on that right wing. He showed last year he's a 20-goal scorer. I would expect that from him again. Fourth line, again, once Hyman's back on the fourth line, you'd see Trevor Moore. Until Hyman's back, I would think third line for him, and Nick Patan would step into that spot. Jason Spezza, fourth line center. Nick Shore on the right side. Spezza showed in the playoffs last year with Dallas. He's still got some gas left in the tank, and I would think playing in a Toronto jersey will at least get him inspired to play some pretty solid hockey for, I'm going to say, the first 3 months of the year. We'll see how much he has left as the season goes along, but fourth line center role, he'll play whatever role he needs to, and kudos to him. I hope he does very well. And then you've got Frederic Gauthier, who will try to push for a job. Matt Reed, who is on a tryout. He's trying to get a job. There's Kenny Agostino there. Kalle Kosilla. Pontus Aberg, who we're not even talking about as being part of this roster. He could push Nick Shore out of a job. He could. Very good start last year and then tailed off quickly. So we'll see which Pontus Aberg you get. Probably one that's going to the American League. I think he ends up going to the American League. Garrett Wilson, he could push into a fourth line role. And then Yegor Korshkov, I put on the board because why not? You got a Russian over here, throw a Russian over here. You just never know. Maybe there's some chemistry in a preseason game, and Mike Babcock says, "Hey, let's put Korshkov on the team." You just never know. So blue line. Who's going to play with who? Is it really going to be Cody Ceci on the top pair with Morgan Riley? Are they going to do that? And then second pairing then would be Jake Muzzin and Tyson Barrie. Ben Harper and Justin Hall as third pairing potentially, unless Timothy Liljegren gets in there, because everybody else appears to be left-handed defensemen. Of course, Travis Dermott's injured as well. Likely doesn't start the season. I don't know how long into the season his injury goes, if it does. And then Martin Marincin and Rasmus Sandin. Now, if Sandin and Liljegren both crack this roster, if let's just say crazily Sandin and Liljegren are in the top 6, that would change the complexion completely of how this blue line has worked. And we have to say that Kyle Dubas saw that the blue line needed to be fixed, and he's done what he felt he needed to do to fix it. Now, whether or not it's fixed, again, we'll find out in 55 days. Goaltending, Freddie Anderson, excellent goaltender. Michael Hutchinson and Michael Neuwirth, the two Michaels, fighting it out for that last spot. With Neuwirth, a professional tryout is what he gets, and we'll see whether or not he ends up making it. I would honestly put Neuwirth ahead of Hutchinson if they were both signed to a contract, but since Hutchinson's got a contract and Neuwirth's fighting for one, I've got Hutchinson ahead of him. But I do think Neuwirth's still the better goaltender. And Kazimir Kaskasuo, I put as fourth on the board, even though Joseph Wall may very well be the number 4 guy in the organization as soon as October. But we'll see. Kasimir's older, so I went with that. He's an older goaltender. He played last year for the Marlies. May very well be the guy that gets called up if one of these goaltenders ends up getting hurt. So one of either Hutchinson or Neuwirth is not going to be with the organization, and I would think that Either Hutchinson, if it's Neuwirth, Hutchinson gets waived and becomes number 3 in the organization. But if Hutchinson's the number 2, Neuwirth probably doesn't get signed to a contract at all. And then that's where Kazmir comes in as the number 3 guy. Now, likely finish, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because Toronto could finish, they could finish second, but yes, they could finish first in the division. If their defense falters, they could finish as low as 4th. I like Toronto's roster. I like the changes they've made. Not a huge fan of Kadri being out because I think he takes something out of their lineup that they're going to need. I think there's a physical nature that they're going to need, and they're going to need to find that. That being said, neither Mike Babcock nor Kyle Dubas appear to have any desire to bring that element into the lineup. If anything, they've been purging that element with Matt Martin gone, Leo Komarov gone, now Nazem Kadri's gone. That physical element seems to be going away, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on their skill players to show themselves to be tough enough to handle the kind of physical punishment they're going to take. We'll see. Because again, people are going to say it's a soft lineup, and I don't know how to defend that exactly. Because it does look like kind of a soft lineup. But they could finish to me as high as 1st, as low as 4th, and I'm saying that I can't see them finishing below both Boston and Florida. I can't see that. Yet, I could see them finishing below either one, but again, it's kind of tricky. I will narrow this down to the actual standings prediction video while I'm here, because if I'm going to roll the dice on something like that, what better place than Vegas? Anyways, there you go. The Toronto Maple Leafs season preview. Let me know where you guys think they're going to finish. Let me know what you guys think about the team in general. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just tapping upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.